I'm Michael Coffey, and this is a Tiny Desk sermon, a first look at the readings for this coming Sunday and some reflections on them. I am the pastor of First English Lutheran Church in Austin, Texas. This coming Sunday is proper 12 or lectionary 17 readings, and the gospel reading is from Luke 11 at the first part of the chapter. And it's the text where Jesus teaches his disciples about prayer because they say, Jesus, teach us to pray. John taught his disciples how to pray, so they know how to follow him. So you need to teach us so we know how to follow you and be like you. So he teaches them what we know as the Lord's Prayer. The version that we get in Luke is a little different from what most of us pray. And then he teaches about our relationship with God in prayer through parables. So I just want to highlight a little bit of the text and then say some things about it. The Lord's Prayer in Luke is a shorter version than what we get in Matthew and than what most of us pray. And as a couple interesting things about it, it begins, of course, addressing God as Abba or Dad, a very intimate, familial, parental, loving relationship that Jesus invites us to have with God as he does. And of course, hallowed be your name. God's name is holy. We begin with that. Your kingdom come. So your reign come to earth, your reign of peace and justice and mercy. Give us each day our daily bread is a uniquely difficult verse to translate in the New Testament. The word for daily bread is only found here and could mean daily bread. It could mean the bread for tomorrow, like a future understanding of the bread that we will receive in the kingdom. But most of us know it as daily bread. And then I think this is very interesting. And forgive us our sins as we ourselves forgive everyone indebted to us. Now you may see a translation that doesn't use the word indebted, but says forgive sins. But the word choice here in Luke is unique and important. Forgive us our sins as we ourselves forgive everyone indebted to us. So Luke here is connecting forgiveness of sins with our economic life. He's saying that we must live by forgiving debt with one another because of the way debt creates imbalanced human relationships and destroys love of neighbor. And that in doing that, we can then rightly ask God to forgive us our sins. Now, since the two are connected, and because this is Luke's gospel, you might really understand sins here as our communal patterns of our economic life that harm other people. So I think these two go together. They're not just coincidentally. God forgives sins and we forgive debts. The two go together. Much like in the story of Zacchaeus, who experiences God's reign as gracious and forgiving by enacting debt forgiveness for those he had oppressed. And I think Jesus is inviting the community into that same kind of way of living economically. Well, then we get to a parable about someone who has a friend. And you go to your friend at midnight and say, "Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread, for a friend of mine has arrived, and I have nothing to set before him." And he answers from within, "Do not bother me. The door has already been locked, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot get up and give you anything." And Jesus says, "I tell you, even though he will not get up and give him anything because he is his friend, at least because of his persistence, he will get up and give him whatever he needs." And there's another difficult translation here in this verse about how the word persistence should be translated and who it is speaking about. It could mean shamelessness. It could be referring to the person knocking. It could be referring to the person in bed. I'm not going to try to figure all that out right now. What's interesting to me is that here we have a relationship of friendship, one in which you would expect somebody would respond to your need. And Jesus, and of course is using this as an example to talk about how God responds to our needs. And the point here seems to be, well, friendship only goes so far. Yes, we can have friends, but they're not always there for you. God is always there for you. So I think the choice of the word friend here, while it may surprise us that the friend doesn't get the quick response to his request for bread, Jesus points out that, in fact, he does respond, because he's responding out of protecting his honor, basically. God is much more than friend. So I think it's a mistake to say, Jesus is our friend or God is our friend if that's as far as we go, because friends only go so far. Finally, notice that the story is not coincidentally about asking for bread. And what do we already learn from Jesus to pray, but to pray for daily bread? And who responds to our daily needs and all of our needs better than a friend, but God. So we put our trust there. Peace.